Oh God, we are definitely gonna need to edit these vocals.
Hello, humans of YouTube. Today I'm going to be showing you how to edit your vocals. I'm going to be using Studio One, but these ideas and concepts are the same no matter what DAW you're using. Now, I want to start by saying garbage in is always going to be garbage out. And what I mean by that is if you record crappy vocals, it doesn't matter what you do to them, they're never going to sound as good as they can. So, if you want some tips on how to record better vocals in the first place, check out my other video. And if you need some tips on what equipment you should be using, I've got a couple of different videos set at different price points so that you can get the best equipment that you can possibly get based on what budget you have. Okay, that being said, I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to try to be really speedy, but also relatively complete. So what I'm going to do is go over 3 of the main effects that I put onto my vocals, and that many people put onto vocals. And then you can get creative. So you can take these concepts and spin them how you like them. You can also put on all sorts of kooky different variations and exciting, crazy effects. That's fine. I just want to show you kind of like the holy grail of the 3 major things that we do to vocals to make them sound crisp, clear, and sitting well within the mix. So those 3 things are Pro EQ, compressor, and reverb. I'm going to make some more complete videos with more in-depth explanations of what these things are, but this is sort of the crash course. So, compressor is all about making the loud parts of your recording not so loud and the quiet parts not so quiet. So it takes the higher volume parts and bringing them down. So you might notice it starts by making everything quieter. But if you put on an auto gain, then it's going to make everything louder. And that's kind of what we go for when we're using compressor. We want to be able to eventually turn the volume up without clipping on those loud parts. So it brings all of the volume within the same range. Pro EQ or equalizer is it's a way to adjust the atmosphere so that certain frequencies come out stronger or come out less strong. And what I mean by that is it's basically just a range of frequencies, and we can boost the frequencies in our voice or whatever our recording is that we like and maybe diminish the ones that we don't want. Reverberation is exactly that. It's the sound of the room. So think about the difference between how your voice would sound singing in a closet full of coats or when you sing in an opera hall. It's going to create this idea of this big, echoey room around you, depending on how you use your reverb. Okay, so we'll jump right into it. So this is my song, Good Again. And I'll show you here's with all 3 effects on. Been laying here with my eyes open, and I just want to feel good again. Okay, and here's it with all the effects taken off. So this is the raw vocals. Been laying here with my eyes open, and I just want to feel good again. So you can see the raw vocals sound okay, but the edited vocals sound bigger, stronger, more complete, crisper, and clearer, and they really sit well within the mix. So I'll show you how I do that. One thing I want to say is I always start with compressor. I know some people start with EQ, and I guess it's a personal preference. You can do what you want there, but compressor is nice to start with because it might affect which frequencies are the loudest. So we'll jump right into it, and I'll show you how the compressor looks. Okay, in Studio One, compressor looks like this, but it's pretty similar as far as what these knobs are in other programs as well. So when it comes to vocals, you do not want to over compress. A little compression goes a long way. If you like the dynamic range, then you don't want to compress too much. So I like that in some parts of the song, I kind of am softer and quieter and more intimate. And in other parts, I'm like, oh, here I am and I'm loud. So what I want to do is just take a little bit of the edge off. So that's why I compress 1.4 to 1, which is a relatively small ratio for compression. I wouldn't go any higher than that on this song because it's just not what I'm going for. These are kind of in their basic starting spots. You can see I didn't want to like really compress too early on. I've got a threshold of negative 15 dB. I put on the auto gain, so basically it boosts it as high as it can to still avoid clipping. And then these are all pretty much how they started. So I really didn't do much with the compressor, and I hardly put any compression on, but a little bit does It does help because that's why I was able to turn the volume up to the volume that I wanted it to be in this mix. If I just solo and did before compression here, I'll take everything off. I'll show you before compression. Been lying here with my eyes open. All right, and now I'm going to show you with. Been lying here with my eyes. Okay, redo. All right, here is with compression. Been lying here with my eyes open. So you can see nothing really changed but the volume, but that's important because you can't just boost the volume, otherwise you'll get those high parts clipping and it will just sound distorted and gross. Okay, so as far as EQ goes, EQ, you can hear the effects of EQ much louder and clearer when you just have the vocals soloed. However, they I wouldn't suggest doing too much when it's soloed with the EQ. If you want to make sure that the frequencies that are building up too much within the song are accounted for. So you really want to make sure that you work with EQ in the context of the entire mix. So basically what I'm saying is don't solo your vocals when you're working with EQ because you need to hear how all the frequencies sound before you affect one track's frequency range. And one thing I want to say is if you're not hearing a difference, there's a good chance you're not using good speakers. So you want to make sure that you're listening with monitor speakers. If you're watching on your phone right now or just some junky computer speakers, then you might not be able to hear much of a difference at all. So whenever you're doing this mixing and mastering at home, make sure that you're using high fidelity speakers so that you can actually hear the little subtleties that I'm talking about. Okay, so here's the track in context of the mix without EQ. Been lying here with my eyes open. And I just want to feel good again. And with EQ. Been lying here with my eyes open. And I just want to feel good again. All right, so I'm going to show you kind of what I did. And if you didn't hear a huge difference, that's okay. It wasn't supposed to be a huge difference. And it's mostly so that the reverb sounds good, which I will talk about in the future. So we're going to switch to a new chunk of song because I'm bored at that part. But I'm going to show you what I do. So like I said, I'm going to keep the vocals. I usually keep it all playing so that I don't just solo out the vocals. Otherwise, I won't be able to hear how the frequencies interact with each other. When you open up EQ, and I'm actually going to make a new one. Pro EQ. It'll look like this, and it's basically this flat line with these little bubbles, and we can adjust these bubbles and drag that line so that it boosts or diminishes certain frequencies. So you can see at like 500 hertz, if I really like the way my voice sounds at 500 hertz, I can be like, whoo, and I'm going to make sure that I increase that frequency, and it's going to come through stronger. Okay, so if I play my song, I want to hopscotch down the hallway. You can see these little bars that pop up while it's playing show where my frequencies are falling. So you can see there's not too many on the super low range. Run away from here. I want to okay, what I'm going to do is the first thing I typically do with my EQ is I'm going to round off the bass. So I don't want to get too much bass because as you saw, there wasn't a ton of stuff happening there. And so that's because my voice doesn't really go to those super low ranges while I'm singing this song. What it does do is that any little flutters you saw over there were more likely imperfections in the recording, air passing on my microphone, things like that. So we want to diminish those a little bit to make the vocals more clear. And I've actually never seen an audio engineer not do some type of high pass filter so that we didn't get this, so they all round off that low end. So if I'm going to play that, I know my voice pretty well, so I'll usually put it maybe about here-ish. One thing you can do if you're not sure where to put it is bring this bubble across and see where you start to hear a difference. Let's say right here you start to hear a difference in your recording, then back it off a little bit. So you go just until you hear it and then you back off, because your goal isn't to take out the low frequencies in your voice. The goal is to simply just cut off that anything that's like a buzz sound that you maybe can't even really hear. So it would look like this. I want to hopscotch down the hallway, wanna run away from here. I wanna hop on. So I'm starting to hear a difference, so then I would back off. And it would be about there-ish. Okay, hopefully that made some sense. I'm going to back it off a little bit further because it's not going to hurt me too. And I know that my speakers aren't super great at hearing those super low frequencies, so I always figure better safe than sorry. I back it off a little extra. All right, so the next thing you want to do is have some type of high shelf. So what that means is we're just going to boost the high frequencies. This is super important in both male and female vocals, but especially important in the female vocals because that's where our range sits a little bit more comfortably is around here. So we want to boost those high frequency and you're going to notice a decent amount of a difference. It's good for both male and female vocals because it brings the vocals up to sound brighter and stronger in the mix. So I'm going to boost those up ever so slightly and you'll see that when I do that effect, you really hear those you really hear my vocals kind of increase above the mix. And that's because it's the only thing that I bring up to a higher range. Everything else, like when I'm editing my guitar, I don't put a shelf on it like that. Okay, and then the most important one that I do is this is what really amps up the clarity. So what I do is I take one of these little bubbles and I'm going to do a sweeping motion, okay? What I'm trying to do when I'm sweeping is hearing where it sounds the worst, okay? I want to find the competing frequencies, the frequencies that don't sound good in my voice. And it's much easier to hear them when you boost them and you go, okay, that sounds all right. I mean, it sounds okay. Oh man, that sounds really ugly. And then once I know where it sounds ugly, I bring it down ever so slightly in that area. And that way it diminishes the competing frequencies. All right, so let me show you what that would look like. I wanna hopscotch down the hallway, wanna run away from here. I wanna hop on a bike and go so far that no one knows. So right about there needs to be turned down ever so slightly. And sometimes I'll do like a couple of different areas. Like I'll go, oh, right here sounds kind of iffy too. So I'm gonna bring it down a little bit there too, something like that. So it's okay to have multiple little, let's bring it down in that range. That's okay. You can also, when you're working with EQ, you can change how skinny or how fat these little wave marks are by adjusting these knobs down here, and you can have fun with them and see what you can do by adjusting those bubbles. Okay? Alrighty, so that was the EQ I just made. This is the EQ that I originally put on. So I was listening a lot more carefully that time around. I didn't do it in like 5 minutes like I did just now, and I really found exactly where I wanted things to be. So this isn't quite accurate, but you see that it's on the right track. All right, I'm gonna turn off the new one and keep the original, and you can see that it was pretty similar. Alrighty, so now I have the EQ on the vocals, and it's going to really pop through nicely. So the last effect I want to do is put on some reverb. Now, reverb, like I said, is like the echoiness of the room. A lot of times people will record their vocals with reverb on them. So they'll record them in a big, beautiful room, which is great, except you can't take reverb off. You can only put it on. So you can't go in and say, I want to take off the reverb that I had on there. Now, one of the reasons that we do mess with the EQ is because when we put the reverb on, we're going to reverberate the bad frequencies. So it's good that we were able to tone them down a little bit and then have some reverb thrown on. It's really hard to adjust the EQ if you have vocals that were recorded in a big room and already have the reverb on them. It's really hard to mess with the EQ, and so those frequencies are just being reverberated super loud. So if you've ever seen like a picture of a recording studio, you might have seen that vocal booths are always really small, have a ton of acoustic foam around them, and that's because their goal is to make them as dead as possible with no reverb on them. And they always know, hey, we can always go back and put reverb on, and that way they have total control of the other parameters of the voice, like the Pro EQ and the compressor, and then they can always put reverb back on. Reverb is pretty easy to hear, so you'll know what I'm talking about even if you have crappier speakers, and also reverb makes a big difference, and it's pretty easy to understand for the most part. Okay, so this is the Studio One's like tool for reverb, and it shows here's the room that we're working with, and we can adjust the size, width, height, all sorts of parameters of the room, as well as adjust how much reverb we're putting on, the quality of that reverb, the character of the sound. We could do all sorts of fun stuff with it. So I highly suggest you play around with them and see how they sound. For example, I'll show you with no reverb. I wanna hopscotch down the hallway, wanna run away And I'll even solo the vocals.
I wanna hop on a bike and go so far that no one knows where I
All right,
might.
and here is with
hopscotch
reverb.
down the hallway, wanna run
So you can hear I'm in a
away
much
from
bigger
here.
room there.
I wanna hop
Here's it in the
on
context
a
of the
bike
mix.
and go so far that no one knows where I might be or what I'm doing.
Okay, and so I can adjust all of these little knobs and cause all sorts of cool things to happen. This one is kind of your master. It's what it affects how much reverb is being mixed in. And this is the next one I think that you should pay the most attention to, because that's going to affect the dry wetness, and it's hard quality to describe, but you'll probably be able to hear it. So I'll just show it to you so you can get an idea. So this is me turning it up,
She always hated when I did that.
turning it down so there's effectively none on it.
I get scared that I'll never feel good again. On the hallway,
Here's me turning up the dry wet
I wanna hop on a bike
and turning it back
and go
down.
so far that no one
So you can play around with
knows
where you like that to sit. You can also, like I said, affect the geometry of the room. You can make it bigger, and you'll see if you just watch this little box. If I turn up, my room's going to get bigger. If I want to make it taller, I can make it taller. And you can play around with that and see where you like your voice, especially for different songs. And that's basically how you use your reverb. Okay, oh man, I affected all these. It's going to sound funky. That's okay. But you can see that I put on these 3 effects, and they can make a huge difference in your recording to sound more professional. So like I said, I'll give you one grand before, after. Here's my raw vocals.
hopscotch down the hallway, wanna run away
And with
from
the effects.
here. I wanna hop on a bike and go so far that no one knows where I might be or what I'm doing. Almost like I disappeared. She always hated when I did that, but it's what I do, and I get scared that I'll never feel good again.
Alrighty, so that is those 3 effects. I'll probably make some videos with more explanation on these. So if you have anything that you want more explanation on, or any other videos you'd like me to make, by all means, write about it in the comments. Tell me what you want. I'm going to be making a video each week for the month of May, for Music Making May. And so please let me know what you want to hear about in those videos. You guys can also comment, like, and subscribe, and all of those things will make me very, very happy. And also, if you like the song that I was working with, check it out. I just released it in April. So it's called Good Again, and you can find me anywhere by searching Brenna Lynn on any streaming service that you use, or find me on any social media at Brenna Lynn Music. Alrighty, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helped. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!